Hi, and welcome to Empower Tomorrow. I'm your host, Kendall, and I'm so excited to be here with Buffs for Books, who works with Every Library. So, welcome.
Thanks for having
Yes,
us.
we're so excited for this
I'm
opportunity.
So excited. This is a great organization, and I can't wait to learn more about it and have the whole world get the opportunity to hear about it. So, what is Every Library?
Yeah, I can take that question. So Every Library is a nonprofit organization that basically supports every library. It's its name. So they support local and national libraries through funding. They do a lot of things with like book bans because right now a lot of the funding for library resources and just books in general are kind of getting frozen. So the organization does a lot of funding for that, and then they do a lot of trainings for librarians. They kind of reinstate like a lot of bans that are referred to like books and stuff like that, and just all things for libraries. So kind of our campaign is trying to help kind of raise awareness for a new demographic because a lot of their demographic is kind of middle-aged white women, and everyone should care about every libraries and the future of libraries. So that's kind of what we're doing with our campaign and really trying to reach a different type of audience.
No, that's great. I mean, as a future educator, I think libraries and books are so critical for education, elementary, middle, and high school. And obviously, like you talked about banned books, but like, is there more to their mission besides just like really doing that professional development for librarians?
I mean, libraries are a great resource hub for information and
For
access to
sure.
information. And especially nowadays, like in this current political climate, people are very apprehensive to the types of information that they're receiving. And pardon me, and libraries are always going to be a constant for information and reliable information. And so I think every library is really trying to support libraries to keep access to information possible, and also kind of talking about book bans, but like on top of that, it's censorship. If book bans are censoring important voices and important stories, so I think every library is really just trying to help
Yeah,
keep freedom of expression, speech, freedom from censorship. Yeah.
exactly. And I mean, like, those are the freedoms that, like, we've written into like the
Mm-hmm.
Constitution, like we got to keep that going.
Mm-hmm.
And so like who is their target audience that they're really trying to like aim for?
Well, so I think every library's target audience is kind of anyone that would be a library advocate. I
Mhm.
mean, as of right now, the people that go to the library mainly are people who like to use their resources for like technology or other kind of information resources. And they said, I think if I remember correctly from their brief, it was lower income families. Usually it's people who have English as a second language, because there are a lot of great classes actually taught at libraries to teach English. And so that's another great library resource that I don't think a lot of people know about. But so every library has tasked us, Buffs for Books, and other universities across the US to broaden that network of people who are going to go to libraries and support libraries. And so that's why we as a group have decided to target educators, because we know when educators follow libraries, they can actually support their students in a better way by being more informed and literate. And there's so many studies that actually show when teachers utilize libraries and library resources, their students do better.
Yeah. And kind of adding on to what Leia said, when we were in a meeting with our client, Every Library, when someone asked them, like, what's your ideal, like, audience, they said, America. We want to have a diverse audience because libraries aren't just all about books, it's about a lot of resources they bring. Like, kind of Leia mentioned, it's access to free internet, computer use. They have a lot of other like workshops for people trying to like boost their career and like get a job. So every library, it isn't just about books. A huge part of their organization is about book bans, and obviously, like Leia said, that's like deals with censorship and a whole nother issue. But at really the core of their mission is to really educate people on the on the resources that libraries bring.
I know, like, I've definitely used resources at the libraries, like, any child I nanny for in the area, I'm like, let's go to those read alouds.
Oh my gosh, it's
Like,
so easy.
it's
Like,
so easy. They have so many free resources for tests, especially like for future educators. Like they all have like free tests, like practice tests that we could take. I'm like, that honestly like saved my day that it was like free because all other resources, like I'm sure you all remember studying for like SAT, ACT, like that stuff's so expensive.
And
yes.
they have resources
And
for
they
that.
have resources. Like, what's your
Yeah.
favorite resource at the library?
That's
a tough one.
Okay, I think as a student,
Yeah, go
like
for it.
I just love the spaces that libraries provide. Like even like the free internet access is great and it's good internet too.
Yeah.
And like even on campus, like a school library, like it's a really just great space to escape because I'm someone that can't do homework in their room or I will be so gravitated to go to my bed. So like being at a library and being surrounded by kind of the other intellectuals who want to be surrounded by library resources, and even if I need something quickly, I'm always asking a librarian on campus at least.
Yeah. I would say at CU specifically, like one thing we really have that a lot of people don't utilize is the library database.
Oh my
And
God, yeah.
using that to just find there's so many scholarly like journals and things in there that you can use for resources and like research aspects and all of that good stuff. There's like books on there that you can get online. All of that is like paid for, through the library, and I feel like a lot of people don't utilize it as much as they should. I found out about it like my freshman year. I had one professor that made us use it for almost every assignment, and I have never stopped. So, yeah.
I think for me, when I think of libraries, and this is kind of another reason why we're trying to target educators, is like I remember like going to like my school library and getting to pick out like 2 books per week. Like it's just kind of like the essence of like I don't know, it's like the first time that I got to like choose any book and learn about anything in the library. And I don't know. I think being like a kid and like having your eyes wide open to the world, the library is a place where you can learn about anything, read stories that really like shape like your life and like kind of like what you want to like go into and like stuff like that. So I don't know. There's so many great resources I use nowadays, but whenever I think of the library, I think of myself as a child.
No, and they still like library is still much a thing, and they only get to choose 2 books.
Yeah, and you have to return them on time, or your parents get a fee.
Yes, they either get a fee or you don't get to check out, and then like some children will have tears, but like it's okay if you bring it tomorrow.
Did anyone else have the stress of like when you had to go return your books and you forgot your library card? Because I remember growing up, like we had like the big library card, but then a little keychain one that you can have on your keys.
Yes.
But like I was 10, I didn't have keys.
Yeah.
Like,
or
but-
even like getting your photo, like mine had. It was like my first like identification with like my face on it, and I thought I was the coolest person ever.
driver's license, library card.
Yes.
No, I literally like lose that library card all the time. But like, and it's okay because they're free, and then they're like, we could totally make you a new one. And like, I feel like to your point of like librarians, they're so nice.
So nice.
And they like definitely like open your eyes to so many things at a school library. Like there's just so many books and just like amazing books. And I'm like always perusing like literally like Boulder Public Library, like the library where I teach. And I'm like, what books can I add to my classroom? Like there's just so many resources for parents and educators. And like you guys said, like your target audience are educators. And so like why do you think it's important to target it to future educators? Like I know you've done a lot of work within the School of Education at CU Boulder.
I know. Sorry, School of Ed students. We've been there like every day.
No, it's great. Like future teachers, but also like current teachers too.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of talked about this in like, I think libraries, like now we're in such a digital world where a lot of the times we're just getting, but like I know half the books that I have to get for class, I just download it to like my Kindle account and I never even go to a library or even like open a book because it's just convenient and it's all right there. So when we were first kind of brainstorming like, okay, how do we want to like format this campaign? Who do we want to target? Through our primary research, we surveyed like CU students, like how often do you go to the library? Like, what do you associate the library with? And it kept dead ending to like education and schools and teachers. And so I think it's an aspect of nostalgia of why we chose educators, but I also think book bans, a lot of the books that are on book ban lists are like Charlotte's Web, To Kill a Mockingbird, The Giver, all books that we grew up reading. I know like practically every book I read in high school that really taught me about the world is on the banned book list. And that's a huge part of Every Library's organization. So it was kind of a no-brainer to our group to focus on future educators. How are we going to give our kids the education and resources that every library is fighting for? And it just made sense to go with educators.
Yeah, and Sam was actually on our research team for our campaign, and she actually made a survey for current educators that we sent out to the Boulder Valley School District and to CU professors, and 76% of our respondents said that libraries play a pivotal role in a student's academic performance. So it kind of only made sense. Well, not kind of only. It made sense to target educators because they know that libraries are valuable to their career.
Oh, it's so valuable. And like, I'm honestly like, I'm so excited to like learn more and like have this opportunity with all of you guys because being a future educator, I'm like, this is perfect. And like, this is what we need. Like, I've called my mom who's like in Chicago. I'm like, have you heard of Every Library? Like, she's a teacher and she's like, no, but like, let me go into it.
You'd be surprised. A lot of librarians don't even know about Every Library. And like we were doing an event at Levin Cup yesterday, which is on the Hill, and this girl came up and she goes, "Oh, I'm actually I'm a librarian at CU, and I didn't even know about Every Library." So I mean, it's kind of fun that we've been doing stuff around Boulder and getting to educate the broader public about Every Library because who doesn't love the library and books and have a fond memory? I remember my first elementary school librarian, Miss Snively, and she was my favorite person ever.
I know, I feel like books like just like center us and like obviously like you said, like there's so many banned books that like we all remember reading and it's like sometimes you're like, why is that being banned? But I feel like as like the list just get longer and longer, it's so important like as someone who's going into education, but also like looking at libraries to be like, what are my favorite books? So like what are all of your guys' favorite like or most like memorable children's book?
Okay, memorable children's book. First, I was a big fan of the Who Was series. Did you guys ever read those?
Yes.
I don't know what it is. Maybe it was the cartoon on the front of like the cover pages, but like I was so into biographies. And I remember I would see the like book titles. Sometimes it would be like Who Is because the figure was still alive. But I remember I first read Who Was Helen Keller, and then I did like Rosa Parks. And I don't know, I thought it was really cool to learn about these historical figures. And I think they added like cartoons in them, and they were short reads too. So I thought I was really cool being in third grade reading 100-page books. Super cool. But most recent book that I've read that I recommend to everyone is The Midnight Library. It's kind of existential. It's about this girl living the lives that she could have lived if she had made other decisions. It's like the what if. So I think there was like one storyline where she wanted to be a marine biologist. So she was like woke up in the lifetime of her being a marine biologist and she learns about herself and what she like kind of learning about what she had chosen in her lifetime. Yeah. It's a really great book, The Midnight Library.
I would say, okay, when I was first learning to read, Pinkalicious was my favorite book.
Oh yes.
Which
Slay.
I recently found out was banned, which I have no idea why.
I think that was
but
recent too.
Yeah, it definitely was. So that one was definitely my favorite, like when I was first learning to read. And then I really enjoyed like the Nancy like Drew book series. My like aunt bought me literally like all of them. And so I just read them cover to cover like nonstop. So yeah, I used to be a really avid reader when I was a kid. I was the same way as you, where I was just like reading book after book like 24/7 and would finish them up. So yeah, those are definitely my favorite too.
Yeah.
I can remember.
My favorite childhood book was definitely Fancy Nancy. Because it was like I wanted to be her, and I think I'm now like all of my social media is like the algorithm because I've been working on this campaign. But it's like I Am Who I Am because that was my favorite childhood book. So Fancy Nancy for sure, but I don't know why, but To Kill a Mockingbird, I think I read it when I was in like the 8th grade or something.
Same,
And it was
same.
the
Yes.
first book where I was like, wait, like this is actually like teaching me, like I understand like the metaphors they're trying to pull in this book and all that. And I really loved my English teacher who taught me the book or read the book with me. I don't know. But it was like the first time, or it's like one of those books that always stick out, and I was like, wait, that's like a very like crucial book for like my education, I guess, if that makes sense. So yeah.
I
No,
think like more to talk about the topic of like books and educators. I remember my English classes being so fun and I enjoyed reading because of my teachers or because of my campus librarians. So I think that's also a really great reason why we're telling educators about every library.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will
I
also,
agree.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll also say like we're all PR majors, well, us at least. And a huge part of PR is writing.
Yeah.
And I think for me specifically, like I fell in love with like writing and I really learned how to write well reading like all these books. So that's also another reason why I think we're all so passionate about this like client every library because it's just something that we like utilize every day.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like, reading is like one of like the biggest things to support in so many different subjects in school. I mean, like, nowadays, like, we spend at least like 2 to 3 hours just like on everything, like reading and writing, like literacy based. And you have all those resources at libraries, which is so important. But obviously, like, we kind of like in the beginning talked about like the book bans. There's a lot of like legislation out there that kind of is like pushing down libraries. And I know from conversations with all of you that every library kind of helps support different like bills and legislation to help support overall like libraries. So can you just like tell all of us more about just like one like super critical or pivotal bill that every library has supported?
Yeah. So have you heard of the Libraries for All Act?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so you already know, but
For
every
me.
library actually created the guidelines for the Libraries for All Act, and that just ensures that libraries are implementing a DEI, like just a DEI program in their libraries. So that means by protecting stories of LGBTQ plus and BIPOC stories, authors, and readers, and making sure that those stories are getting told. They also ensure that the DEI policies of the state are actually being implemented in libraries too. And obviously, DEI is a very prevalent conversation again today in today's political climate. It's important that the Libraries for All Act stays enacted so that there is a civil rights kind of outline for libraries to follow.
No, that's like amazing. And I think for someone who's going to be working in a space that has a library, like at the school that I'm currently at, like I see it. We have like a whole shelf just full of DEI rooted books, and our librarian changes them out every week.
Oh, that's so nice.
It's so sweet. And like, they're actually like giving me a whole list of books to like buy for my future classroom because hearing those stories and having access to them is so important. Like, those stories are meant to be shared, and I think they're so important for kids to have the opportunity to read them in a safe space like libraries offer.
Absolutely. And I think like even going on top of that, students come from all different backgrounds. If they see their stories presented in the books that they're reading, it just has some sort of feelings of empathy and belonging through those books. And when stories about being a young LGBTQ plus community member, a young BIPOC person, like it's like heartbreaking to think that those stories won't be heard by the people who need to hear them most.
No,
Yeah.
exact. And I think that act will help allow people to still hear those stories amongst book bans and amongst like the differentiating, like changing political climate, because I think at the end of the day, like libraries, reading, books, educators, education, combining them all together will like help keep us all grounded and keep us all like moving forward, which is so important. I think every library does that.
Yeah.
So how can people like join in this like initiative?
Yeah.
I would say one of the best ways that people can join in is to keep up with every library and all that they're doing, whether that's through visiting their website or by like coming to our social media pages and looking at some of the stuff that we post because we keep up with them all the time as well. We also have a Google form on our social media page that allows for people to sign up for a newsletter that every library sends out. That's a great way to like stay in touch with them and kind of like see what they're doing on a regular basis. And then coming to our events and supporting us because we're always willing to like talk about what they're doing and what's going on in the world of every library and with libraries in the US right now.
I have a few more questions. So I think we've talked a lot about libraries, but I mean, you guys know a lot about them. Is there a library in every school?
Yeah, so there unfortunately is not a library in every school. It's a whole lot of reasons, like a lot of it's funding. I'm from Philadelphia, and Philadelphia School District, a lot of our public schools don't have libraries. Actually, when I was in high school, I volunteered at an underfunded school, I would say. And one of our like service projects was to help them create a library. And they had this beautiful library, but they didn't have enough money to like have a librarian or like keep up with it. And even a lot of the books in the library were like not up to date. So like why would these students even want to like really read the books in the library? So yeah, not every school has access to like a school library. But with that being said, every library does a lot of work to kind of still give those students access to maybe like their public library or even kind of train school districts and schools on like what librarians can do, how can teachers implement like a curriculum for like to have the same kind of access to library. So that's one reason that's really important is because like not every school has a library, and it's not just because of underfunding. Some schools just simply don't have enough space for libraries,
Sure.
which is like completely
Or a
fine.
librarian. Like
Or a
I've been at
librarian,
schools
yeah.
where like they literally don't have a librarian, and
Yeah.
it's like
Does the school that you student teach at have a library and a librarian?
yes, but the school
Okay.
that I was at last year, like the whole first half of the school, we didn't. We had a library and it was full of books, but then we got a parent volunteer who
Bless
just
them.
literally who just kind of like stepped into like this librarian role but as a substitute because like to become a librarian like there's a lot just like a teacher there are like tests or some
Oh yeah, library studies is
Yeah.
a legit studies.
it's like a legit thing that like you need to have like
Mhm.
this huge background and you can't just be like someone from off the street like coming
Yeah.
on and be like let me be
Yeah.
your librarian.
And every library does a lot of trainings for
Mhm.
librarians, so to get kind of like that parent even involved, like
Yeah.
so there's a lot of like workshopping that they do for those schools that don't have libraries.
Like to put it into perspective, according to the American Libraries Association, there are more than 8,800 schools that don't have a library on campus. And for those that do, 17,000 don't have an either part-time or full-time librarian. So I know that's the face that you gotta make. Yeah.
That's like
And it's like all these educators who are about to go to these public schools, and not all the public schools, obviously, but the teachers that do end up at a school that don't have a library on campus, they should be finding the resources at their public library that they couldn't find on campus. Yeah,
that's so
I know.
like
The numbers are daunting.
that's like honestly like so scary like going into like education and being a teacher to be like does my school like does my future school have a library and like books are expensive
So
Yeah, so
expensive.
expensive.
and so like
As college students, like
Oh,
we know that.
That's like
Yeah.
yeah.
and it's like I mean, I'm sure like you guys remember like your classrooms had libraries.
Mm-hmm.
And like
Like a little mini library in the
Yeah.
corner at
It's
the
like a
reading
bookshelf.
nook.
Yeah.
and like
Reading time.
Oh, so
gosh.
good.
After like lunch to like calm our down.
Yeah.
Pick out a book.
No, I don't think it really sometimes helps. I mean, like especially like
No, I think I was like talking to
walls.
my friends.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
whispering to them.
It's still like talking. And I'm like, let's read our books. But like that stuff's expensive. But like having public libraries,
Mhm.
like you could totally go
Mhm.
and like get a few books and like bring them
Mhm.
to your classroom, which I think is like so important for like people to know. Because like
Yeah.
honestly, like I didn't even think about that until now. Like I've been like saving literally every single children's book that I've owned, and like past teachers of mine like have literally like given me their old libraries just because like we've kept in contact. And I think that's so important to like have those connections with your teachers and like figure out ways on how to like support them and all of that. And I guess like kind of going back to like book bans and all of like the anti DEI stuff that like is out there, like what are things that people can do to support every library besides just like following people, like following you guys on Instagram, which like everyone should do.
Well, so every library has a news and update section on their websites where they actually post about library legislations that are anti-libraries or for book bans. So I think there was one recently, I want to say New Hampshire. And so people in New Hampshire can see the bills that are being passed, and every library will usually make a statement on why this is a threat to libraries. And so I think there's usually petitions that people can sign. Also, every library is constantly raising funds to support libraries on a national level. So going directly to every library's website to support financially or just to even educate themselves on local libraries, library issues is a great way. And I know that there are even like donation sites and hubs on every library for more state specific fundraisers.
And something great about every library is it's nonpartisan, and they really truly believe in libraries for all. So it doesn't matter like what state, where, what, I don't know, in that area politically, like they want to give access to everyone across the country. Like I said before, when they like dream about their like ideal demographic, it looks like America. So they really are trying to do work for everybody.
I think that's like amazing. And I think that's something that like totally should be done. And like, how can other people support you guys? Because like, obviously, you are all like PR majors, like in this competition to like support every library. So, how can people support you guys?
I would just say one of the biggest things that we want people to just like come to our socials and follow us and learn more about every library through us, because we really have been working hard to kind of create this campaign in an engaging way for people our age. Because I feel like even now, even with myself, like before starting this campaign, I've noticed that people in our generation, this is not something that like we think about regularly when it should be. And so I think that by us being a part of it and by making videos about banned books or talking to different students on campus and making videos about that, it really is kind of an engaging way for students to get involved. And then again, just like coming to support us at events, learning more about things like that is really helpful to us. So,
You know, I still remember like when we met and I was like,
oh my God, that's a fun story.
I'm like walking. I think I'm literally like wearing the same outfit too. Like I came straight from teaching.
You look so cute.
And I'm like just like testing your knowledge on libraries. Like
For context, we made like a little social media post, like quizzing people at the School of Education if they knew what resources were available at the library. And Kendall had just come from like a long day of student teaching, and me and another member of our team were like running around with a mini mic. And we're like, "You look like a teacher. Do you happen to be one?" She goes, "I just came from kindergarten." So yes, I am.
I love going to the School of Ed building because you guys are like all passionate, and I'm like, oh my God, you guys look like teachers. Like I can imagine you guys in the classroom.
Yeah.
No, it's such like a fun energy, like because we're like in the case building doing something completely different, and then we go over the education building, and you guys are like I don't know. Every time I talk to like a future educator, I'm like, I'm so glad you guys are teaching
Seriously.
the future educate or teaching the future generations
I-
because no one wants me teaching.
Well, not no one, the educators out there, but
Yes.
I will say this, I think educators are the most, I don't want to say underrated, but underappreciated people.
Yeah.
Like seriously, I'm gonna give snaps to Kendall
Yeah.
over here for doing it because the patience and the commitment that you have to students, just even beyond the classroom. I know like teachers who have changed my life were there for me outside of the classroom,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
were
for
always
sure.
wanting to know me as a person rather than just a student. So I literally applaud you and every other teacher out there, and you
Thank
guys are
you.
seriously building the next generation, and you guys, I know that you guys can do it even better when you are in connection with libraries.
Literally, like, that is exactly like the reason why I wanted to be a teacher, was to like make an impact, but also like down the road, like going into education policy to like help out like libraries, help out the kids who have English as a second language, the kids who have like disabilities, and really make education like more about the student, and like obviously like educators, and like getting to like have them know who you are. I feel like we all have like a favorite teacher.
Yes.
So who is all of your favorite teachers? So I think like that's so always so fun to like reflect upon, because like
Yeah.
I'm still in contact with like my favorite teacher.
Oh my gosh, that's so hard.
I have mine.
Go for it.
Mr. Brown. I had him for sophomore and senior year English. I loved him so much that I really wanted him twice. He was one of those teachers that got to know you as a person. He was just like, he taught with such empathy and compassion. He is a veteran, I think, from the military, some branch of the military, and he was just so passionate about teaching English. And what I really liked about him the most is that, as obviously important as writing is for English, our final project actually, which was my favorite because it was kind of about public speaking and speaking to a large group of people, we had to sing a song in front of the class. And basically it was pick a book that you have read throughout your entire high school career and connect it to a song. Talk about specific quotes in the book and maybe even lyrics or themes on how the song is made, and then sing it in front of the whole class. So I like think my my sophomore year song was from Hercules. It was, I don't even know, but we read the book Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, and then I sang a song from Hercules in front of the whole class, and it was so much fun. And he like made learning fun and new, but then also he would just want to talk to students and get to know them. And yeah, he was awesome.
Yeah, I had a teacher that was kind of similar in that like aspect of like wanting to get to know students. My favorite teacher, his name was Mr. Mentz. I still talk to him to this day. He was my government and economics teacher my senior year. And the first day that I walked into his class, he was taking roll, and he like looks at me and he goes, "Your name is Sam?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "That's not right. I'm naming you Blake because
What?
your parents should have named you Blake." And I was like, "Okay." So I just became Blake, and that was like the only way he would refer to me. And even on graduation, he like came up to my family and like gave me a hug and congratulated me and was like, I know you're gonna do great things in the world, Blake." And my parents were like, "Who is Blake? Like what?" So yeah, he was a great teacher. He made government and economics really fun because they're not like topics that high school students really tend to care about. At least, when you're like 17, 18, you're going into the world, it's like, you're getting ready to graduate, things like that. So he really kind of like made it engaging. He let everyone share their opinions. And so there was a lot of times where we would just have like debates in class or like full on discussions. And it really like pushed me to learn because it was almost like a competition. I was like, I need to know what I'm talking about for this debate, so I'm going to learn about it. And that was a lot more helpful than just like, taking a test or something like that. So he just did a lot of things to make the classroom a little bit more engaging. And then we actually chose him to be our commencement speaker because he was like really touching to our class specifically. So yeah, he's a great teacher. And he also helped me choose my college because I was really conflicted. I was really conflicted. So yeah, kind of helped me make like a pro and con list during class one day when we were just kind of like working on stuff, and he was just like very much there for me when I was trying to figure out like what I wanted to do with my life and where I wanted to be. So yeah, he's definitely my favorite.
Yeah, I've had so many teachers that like really shaped me. I would say like I don't know why, but whenever I think about like my favorite teacher, it goes to my second grade teacher, Mr. Garcia. And I feel like that's like I know we're on the topic of libraries, but I feel like that's like really when you're like learning to read. Like I don't actually know, but I feel like that's for me when I like actually learned how to read. But one of the things to help us is we did like a news broadcast. Like so there was like a sports section and it was like two guys that like reported on like Philly sports. And then I remember I think I was like the news anchor. So I was like sitting there with like my sheet of paper and like I think we like wrote the scripts. I think he helps us. But then we would like read them and like practice like reading out loud and stuff like that. And like he would film us and he like made it into this like whole like broadcast. And I don't know, that always stuck with me. Like it's just like those little like memories where it's not just like you sitting at the desk. I don't even remember like sitting at the desk. He was like very like let's paint, let's like do like put on like plays and theater to help you like learn reading and stuff like that. So I don't know, that always sticks out to me. But I mean, there's so many. Even like my professors that I had one semester have like made such a huge impact. And I don't think that's like, I don't know, maybe, but like educators, like, I don't think they realize like how like that's like a core memory of mine. So I don't know. There's always like that one professor or teacher that you had growing up that you'll like never forget.
What about you as an educator?
Yeah.
Who's the teachers like that you want to be like?
Definitely like my kindergarten teacher. I still keep in contact with her. And she just like kind of like you said, like she saw me. I really struggled in preschool. I didn't really talk a lot. I don't know why. Now I like talk all the time. And my preschool teachers would literally like make fun of like the way I ate. And like really like
Well,
messed
we could
up.
go down a whole loophole on that one too.
Yeah,
one day.
literally. I was like, and they would like complain to my parents. They're like, your daughter like just saves her food. Your daughter doesn't eat. Your daughter eats like in a specific like way because I'd eat like one little thing and then the next, and I would save it. And then like I wouldn't really like talk to them. I would just like talk to my friends. And so I like really struggled. And like preschool's supposed to be fun.
Yeah, what?
And I was like,
It's
what?
finger painting and naps. Like, hello, so much
No,
fun.
exactly. And so my kindergarten teacher, even though I was only there for half day, just like saw me and like literally just like brought education to life, just like made it like so fun. I've like gone back to teach in her classrooms, like in high school, and just like I keep in contact with her, and she's like shaped everything for how I want to be as a teacher, like seeing my kids as like who they are, because teachers wear so many different hats.
Seriously.
And like I don't think I really realized that until I started teaching. But like that's like our role, and I think it's so important to continue that on and make those memories, like high school, middle school, elementary school, like they all professors, they all have such like a critical role in our lives. But like obviously now you were all PR majors.
Yes.
And like circling back to like every library, like maybe I don't know that much about PR, but like what would be like your guys' like one liner for like every library, like or buffs for bucks, like either or.
Every library is for every educator.
Yes.
End of sentence. Every library for every educator. No matter what grade you teach, whether it's university or kindergarten, you can utilize library resources to empower your students to be more informed and literate. Yeah, that's it. That's kind of
mic drop.
boom.
What about their buffs for bucks? Because like that's every library, which is so important. But like your like group is also important too.
That's like
yeah. So our campaign name is actually every educator for every library. I always flip flop, but every library for every educator, and then our team name, because there's two teams, is Bus for Books.
Okay,
so that's
cute.
why you'll probably see like in our Instagram bio it says every educator or every library for every educator. So yeah, that's kind of the thing. Bus for Books is just our team name, just so you can identify us.
Mhm. If I were to give us like
I
a
don't even
slogan,
Yeah, what's your like slogan?
if I were
Mark?
to
Come
give
on.
us a slogan off the top of my head, it would be like something about educating educators to be something.
For every library.
Okay, I don't know.
Every
Every-
educator.
Every educator needs to be educated on every library. Is that not a mouthful? Can
No, it's
everyone
a
remember
great-
that? Yeah.
It's like an alliteration.
I
so
think
it's
it's
perfect.
like something that like people don't, I think, know about PR is storytelling. We try and
Yeah.
tell people stories, and we are really excited to be telling the stories of future educators and how they'll be utilizing libraries and speaking with future educators such as yourself and learning about libraries and all the things that they provide for educators. So I think it's been really fun to learn about libraries. I mean, we had kind of, I don't know if we had said this at all during this time we've been hanging out, but I didn't know as much about libraries and how fundamental they are to society and how it's seriously just the cornerstone of life.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I literally just doing this campaign has taught me just as much as I want to be teaching others
Yeah.
about every library.
And I think it's been rewarding for all of us because for so many reasons, like obviously every library is such an amazing like cause, but like through this, like it's brought up so many like different memories. And
Yeah.
it's like I feel like I'm like so lucky to be doing this work with such an amazing organization and such an amazing team because like I just said, like a lot of PR is like storytelling. And I feel like one thing that like when I first thought about libraries was like, oh, it's like I don't know, like outdated and like old. But it's been really awesome to like bring our brains and like make it like kind of spin it into like a creative way. Like we're doing a lot of like mini mic videos, like you are a part of
Yeah.
one. And that's like kind of like a trendy thing of our generation. So like it's kind of been really fun to be like, okay, like we like the use of libraries is declining. How can we like re-engage our generation with libraries? And kind of answering that question and telling that story has been really, at least really rewarding for me. And like supporting such a great organization that like I don't know, it's gonna like stick with me for life, and I'm gonna be a library advocate for life.
Yeah.
I know, I feel like it's just so like empowering to like see people like you guys, but also like the nonprofit like doing this work because like libraries are so important. And like I do think a lot of people think they're outdated, but they're not.
No, they're
Yeah.
not at all.
They're not. Like honestly, like Boulder
so
Public
cool.
Library is like gorgeous. Like there's
Yeah.
so much like natural light. They
Mhm.
have the
Yeah.
cafe. Like libraries, I feel like you said like are very like central
Mhm.
to like communities, and that's
Mhm.
so important. So like everyone should go visit their library and
I know.
support every library.
I was learning just through this campaign the fun events that the Boulder Public Library
Oh, yeah.
does. Pages and Paws, with
That's so
like
cute.
dogs and reading. I'm there.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
seriously.
really great stuff.
Yeah.
Also, they have like movie nights. It's not all about books too. It's
No,
just a
it's
community
not.
center. It's a
It-
community center. And
Libraries are such like community hubs
Mhm.
of like so many things, after school programs, movies,
Mhm.
events, just honestly like places just like sit, work, decompress,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and like explore all of the resources
Mhm.
and all that the world has to offer.
Yeah.
Seriously.
What did you said it earlier, but we were talking to a guy yesterday who was like at one of our events, and he said it's the cornerstone of life.
Yeah.
And he couldn't like that's like the bet that maybe that's our tagline.
Yeah. It's the cornerstone of life.
But like everything comes back to like reading and books and
Oh, for
learning and like innovation and all of that, and like legitimately libraries are the cornerstone of like those like really you discovering the world. So
No,
Yeah.
for sure. I see it as a teacher.
Mhm.
I see it just like every day, like working with children, even if I'm not like in that teacher role for them, like reading is the center, which
Mhm.
then like you need your books, libraries have so many resources, you know, free Wi-Fi, free everything pretty
Mhm.
much to allow people to understand and like bring things to the classroom or bring things home. It's just innovative.
It's kind of interesting you say everyone is a member of the library.
Oh, for
I was
sure.
at an event the other day, and this is just kind of a funnier story for the people who are probably, I don't want to say not inclined, but the people who should be following libraries. We were just outside doing a tabling event, and these girls were definitely like walking past, had somewhere to go, and I go, "Oh, do you have a moment to support libraries?" I was gonna give her my whole spiel on what every library is, and she looks at me, she goes, "Oh, I'm already a member of the library," and I'm like, "Everyone's a member of the library. If you can just go into the library, do whatever you want. You
Wait, say what you said after
no,
that.
I'm not.
Okay.
No,
It was funny. It's funny. It's
I'll tell you
not,
off camera.
Yeah,
We'll
like,
go
yeah.
that'll be off camera. But
Yeah.
I think it's also important to know, even if you're not an educator, you can still support libraries. You can still be a library advocate. Libraries, you kind of mentioned this earlier, but like as an educator, when education policies are gonna like be put on a bill that you have to vote on, you can go vote at libraries. They're public
Literally.
spaces for voting. Like libraries offer so much. This could be a whole maybe 5-hour long podcast if we wanted it to be, to talk about all the things that libraries do, but I know we don't have that kind of time. But yeah, there's so much that libraries have to offer, and virtually anyone can be a library advocate. And by doing that, you can just fill out our Google form to stay up to date with every library and following us on socials. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
So top 3 things that libraries have to offer then.
I would say curiosity is my top one, because I remember as a kid, it cultivates a place for kids to like build their learning abilities, just to learn how to be a learner. I know it kind of sounds like, oh, that's just a given, like you're born knowing how to learn. It makes you want to be a lifelong learner. And I think that that's something that I really carried with me after growing up going to the libraries, is just I wanted to learn. I wanted to read. I still want to like learn and read. And after I graduate in May, which is scary, but I will probably still want to learn. And that's something that I really attribute to like being in a library as a kid. So it's definitely my top one. I don't know. But
I'm like we have the privilege to have access to like computers and Wi-Fi, especially being college students, and I think we take that for granted. But there's so many people out there that don't have access to that, and libraries do give people the resource to like the internet, Wi-Fi, just like a place to sit, like a comforting place to like do their work that a lot of people unfortunately don't have access to. So I think that's like a really great resource for libraries, and that's probably why I really want to spread the message of like libraries are more than books for those people that don't have those resources just like at their house, or like get to go to a beautiful college that like offers it for free.
I wish for free. The tuition dollars
Or,
is not worth it.
Well, not for free. With tuition.
Yeah. Included. We'll say included.
It's all included.
It's all included, guys.
Or up front.
Yes.
Pay for upfront.
I think I'm very fortunate that I was able to get my high school diploma by going to do 4 years worth of high school, like not every, but like fortunate people who get to do 4 years of high school to get their diploma. Libraries offer classes for people to get their GEDs, which is super important, and other test prep stuff like SATs and ACTs and GEDs. And I think there's another test that I can't name off the top of my head, but I
Praxis
think
for teachers.
Yeah, okay.
And
But
I think like
any
LSAT,
test prep,
like anything that
will build the next generation of leaders in any sector ever. And for the people who probably couldn't go get their high school diploma, knowing that there is a space for them to go achieve that at a library is really honestly kind of moving, and it makes my heart warm.
I had no idea that. Like, that's so cool. I feel like libraries like build curiosity, accessibility, but they're able to just like build your life at the end of the day. Like they're that like critical thing.
Another slogan: build your life.
It's
Let it
that
out.
piece of a
Go to a
puzzle.
library.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like that piece of a puzzle that like helps create our lives and like helps us be curious, helps us learn, figure out who we are, but also just like figure out life through like their events and meet people. Like they are pivotal. And I think having that mindset that libraries, at the end of the day, are critical. We should all support them.
Yeah.
They empower so many different people.
Snaps for that. Snaps for that, Kendall.
Favorite part.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you
so
for
much
having
us.
us.
Yeah,
This
seriously.
has
it
been
means
such
a
an
lot.
awesome discussion.
No. Yeah.
It just makes us like so excited to talk about what we've been doing for months.
No, I'm so excited. I feel like I learned so much.
Yay.
And I can't wait to continue learning and following Every Library. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.